Good afternoon. I'm Jeff Hirsch, editor-in-chief of the Stock Traders Almanac, and this is WealthWise and Biz Talk Today TV. For my latest picks and market analysis, go to stocktradersalmanac.com, click on log in, and there'll be a link for a free trial. In light of Israel's attack on Iran and the market sell-off today and Iran's response, and as the world braces for escalation, I'm going to jump right into today's very special featured guest interview. I know we'll get to the markets along the way, but it is my pleasure to have Anthony Scaramucci on the show today, esteemed financier, influential political voice. He needs a little introduction because everyone knows that he was White House communications director under Trump 1.0 for 11 days in 2017. Founder, managing partner at SkyBridge Capital, founder, chairman of SALT, the Global Thought Leadership Forum and Capital Introduction Forum, encompassing finance, technology, and public policy. He's also got a couple of really cool podcasts, Open Book, Lost Boys. So without further ado, Mr. Scaramucci, thank you for coming on the show. Really appreciate it, man.
Well, I'm a 3-decade buyer of the Stock Trader Almanac, and remember your father very fondly, and it's great to be on with you.
It's an amazing day to have you on. First off, happy Father's Day. I know I'll be enjoying a round of golf and some surf and turf with my kids afterwards, but hopefully, yeah, it's good. So we scheduled this a few weeks ago. I was reviewing your little book of Bitcoin for the upcoming 2026 Almanac, but we'll get into Bitcoin and crypto and Trump and politics and world events and the markets and the news of the day. But, you know, what I like to do is find a little bit more about you, the man, the legend, the mooch. You know, how did you manage to get from the North Shore of Long Island to Harvard Yard?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think that there's a lot of different things, but I mean, I don't really agree with a lot of what Hillary Clinton has said in life. But one thing she said, it takes a village, and it does take a village, because I needed some really good public school teachers. I needed 2 athletic coaches to beat my ass in.
What did you play?
I needed a strict father. Well, I never played at the college level. I played varsity. I was the point guard on the high school basketball team, and I was the starting quarterback on the football team up until I hurt my knee in the 11th grade, and then I got taken out. So I have a torn ACL on my left knee, which had to get repaired. But I had I was president of my student government, all that sort of stuff. I worked at Key Food. If you lived out on Long Island, you know what a Key Food is. You live in Jamaica Plains and Queens. These are these local supermarkets. So the guy that ran that was actually a guy named Lou Campanelli, one of the best guys of all time. He really helped me with my life ideas and my life habits. And then I would say something. There's a guy by the name of John Zanetti, Jeff. He was my guidance counselor. May his soul rest in peace. He used to smoke cigarillos. He was an old school Italian. He showed up at my father's house. We were in the middle class. I would never tell anybody I was below the middle class. We grew up in a small house on Long Island. My dad was in the union. He came into the house. He was smoking a cigarillo with my father, and he told him in Italian that I don't want you to send your son to Binghamton. He got into Tufts, and I want you to send him to Tufts. And the Binghamton, I think, was like $4,000 a semester.
We've applied there recently ourselves.
Okay, so Tufts was like 12.
All right.
And my father's like, I can't afford it. I mean, you know, I think the tuition was like 24 grand. My dad was making 33. I was like, we're not gonna be able to afford it. And Zanetti said, your kid's resourceful. He'll figure it out. He'll get loans. He'll hustle pizza. He'll do all different types of stuff. But I want him to go to the private school. It'll be a better education for him. I'm not saying you get a bad state school education. I was a public school kid. But Zanetti told my father that I went to Tufts. It was down the block from Harvard. And I got to meet a lot of people at Harvard over the 4 years I was at Tufts. And when I applied to law school, I got into 6 schools, including Harvard. I got rejected from Yale, and I went to Harvard. That's the shortest way I could tell you the story, but a lot of help from a lot of people.
And remember, your dad especially.
Yeah, and I'm not from an educated group of people. You know, my parents didn't go to college even. But my dad did something for me that I have to always praise him for and never forget. He gave me in April of 1982 a $10,000 check. I had just gotten the acceptance letter from Tufts, and he handed me a $10,000. I said, Pop, where did you get this from? He said, well, I cashed in my life insurance. So he cashed in his cash value of the life insurance. He gave it to me. And I remember thinking, okay, if something happens to my dad, this is going to put pressure on my family. And it was a big deal. And it got my head straight because, I was driving in a Camaro. Where did you grow up in New Jersey? Where'd you grow up?
I grew up in Bergen County. Yeah.
Yeah, Brooklyn. Okay, so I mean, I was just on the other side, right? Okay, you were doing the same thing as me.
Yep.
You know the difference between Jersey Italians and Long Island Italians? Our mothers do the laundry. Okay, we did the gym and tanning, but our moms did the laundry. We never did any laundry. And I used to hang out. I had a Camaro. I had gold chains. My
What
hair.
beach? What beaches were you
I
at?
would go to,
Gilgo.
yeah, I go to Gilgo. I go to West End 2. I go to Field 6. It was a very close walk to the ocean. And my hair was blown back like Tony Manero in Saturday Night Fever. And I thought my shit did not stink. I had one of those peppers, the gold horns and the red peppers. I had a power booster in the car. Okay, but I had a good test scores. I had good grades.
You
And
worked hard.
yeah. And so when my dad gave me that check, I was like, oh man, I cannot let this guy down. I'm not going to let this guy down. And so I hustled through Harvard and Tufts and then Harvard. But then the newsflash, I didn't really want to be a lawyer. So I had to figure out
Yeah.
what to
So
do.
you went straight to Goldman after law
Yeah.
school.
hmm
You never practiced law. Do you have any regrets of that, or you never even wanted to be a lawyer?
No, no, I didn't. I'm not ill. I was ill suited. And the one thing I've been gifted with some modicum of self awareness.
Yeah.
I said to a group of people yesterday, I'm so short that I barely made the height requirement for my roller coaster life. Okay, so I do have some level of self awareness. I mean, I would have been a terrible lawyer, but you know what I was? I was a terrible investment banker. Goldman hired me in the
See,
real estate department. I got fired from the real estate department.
why did you get fired and then rehired back? What happened there?
Sucked at the job. Didn't understand how to do spreadsheet analytics. The pitch to me to come in was they were going to train me to do that. I didn't really know how to do it. And when the recession hit, they had to jettison people and cut staff, and they blew me out. They fired me on February 1st, 1991,
Uh
and
huh.
they rehired me into the sales and trading area, which is actually where I first met the stock trader almanac. I got rehired on March 28th. So I was out of a job for 6 weeks, and I got back into Goldman on March 28th.
How did you get back in? Do you like sell yourself? I mean, did you
Well,
hustle your way in? Or
here's the lesson for young people that listen to you. Don't burn bridges. Okay, I got fired once at the White House. John Kelly and I are very close friends. I socialized with him and Karen Kelly. I got fired from Goldman Sachs by a guy named Mike Fascitelli. He went on to become the CEO of Vornado Realty. He was a partner at Goldman. He's a great guy. He had to fire me. They were cutting costs. I didn't take it personally. I said, Mike, we got to try to stay friends after this. And he said, no problem. When that other job opened, I called Michael and said, listen, there's a job opening. You never complained about my work ethic. You complained about my competency in doing the work. And really, it was just me getting up to speed with the work. And I said, but I think I'd be really good at this other job. Would you recommend me? And he did. And he did. And so the lesson is don't burn bridges. And don't take things personally. When bad shit is happening, some of it is you for sure. But don't go crazy on yourself.
so then, how did you leapfrog up to managing director?
Oh, I never made managing
I
director. I
mean,
got promoted to vice president because I was doing
BP.
a good
Sorry.
job. Yeah, I was doing a good job. And then I got invited into a private client team. So in 1994, I got hired at Goldman in 89, fired in 90, rehired in 90. By 1994, I moved to a private client team, and that was great because it was a bull market. You remember those days. You and I are contemporaries. So
Yeah.
we're talking 95, 96, 97. David Askin blew up in 94. We had a 200 basis point move in interest rates. March, February 94 crushed the market, almost knocked Goldman out of business. They had to seek equity capital from the Kamehameha estate in Hawaii to keep the business going. And I had a really good run, 96, 95, 96. At the end of 96, I took my book of business out of Goldman. I
Right.
started something called Oscar Capital Management with my partner Andy Bozart. And I used to call your father and order like 300 books from you guys with my logo, Oscar Capital Management, and send them out to my clients. And that business did well, thank God. And I always tell people we made so many mistakes, but those mistakes got masked by a bull market. Like, you know how you shouldn't confuse brains with a bull market? One of your aphorisms in your
Yeah.
books.
Yeah.
You also, when you got a bull market, you got to take advantage of it. You know what I mean?
Right.
You got to know you're in a bull market. You got to make hay when the sun is shining. And so we did that. I picked up an advisory distribution contract from Fidelity in the early days when they had their advisor referral program. Neuberger Berman wanted to be in that program, and they reached out to me. And I don't know if you remember Greg Fleming. He's now the president of
Hmm.
uh, it's Guggenheim. No, it's not Guggenheim. I'll think Rockefeller. He's the president
Rock.
of Rockefeller, and he reached out to me. He was a banker, fin banker at Merrill Lynch, and he sold my business to Neuberger Berman. And so I was
You hung
30,
out there for a couple of years,
couple of
right?
years, 37 at Neuberger. Neuberger got sold into Lehman. I spent
Right.
2 years at Lehman, and I went to Dick Fold and said I wanted to start SkyBridge. He was very helpful to me, Dick.
What was the impetus to start SkyBridge? What did you want to do there? What was
Well,
your
I'll say to you what I said to Dick. I said, Dick, I'm an entrepreneur. I left Goldman, built a successful business. You have a wonderful company here, but I want to go back and build my own business. And I explained to him what the business was. And he said, okay, no problem. If you stay to the end of the year, I'll give you $10 million of balance sheet capital and the firm will become an LP. I said, okay, you're the man. That would be awesome. And I did that. He did that. I got some money from Michael Dell. I had my own personal money. I got some money from Greg Fleming at Merrill Lynch. I started the business with about 150 million in capital, raised another 150 or so million, had our first fund at 300 million. I sold 10% of the business to James Packer, who
hmm
was the billionaire from Australia. I met him through a colleague, a friend of mine at Deutsche Bank, because I needed equity capital to buy Citibank's fund to funds business. So the 2008 global financial crisis hit. The big banks were selling assets, Jeff.
Good thing you got out of Lehman back then, huh?
Yeah, well, that's the irony. So this is a lesson because this is obviously a investment show. This doesn't reflect well on me, but I'll share it with people. It is not the things that you know and the things that worry you that typically get you in trouble. Because if you're worried about something, you gird yourself for it. It is actually the things that you think you know with absolute certainty that are completely wrong that kick your ass in. And so for me, I'll tell you this story. I went to Dick Fold. I said, listen, I got a lot of Lehman stock. I inherited it from my Oscar Capital days. I would like to hold on to this Lehman Brothers stock as an MD here at Lehman. I did make it to MD
Right.
finally at
That's what I
Lehman.
got. Yeah.
Yeah, so I made it to MD at Lehman. I said, as an MD here at Lehman, I would like to hold on to it, but in the operating agreement, I have to sell my shares. And he said, well, I can bring it to the committee. The committee said, F you, sell your shares. So I sold my shares at 40 in 2005. The stock went from 40 to 89. I was ready to stab my eyeball out with like a butter knife. And then it went from 89
Zero.
to zero. Largest bankruptcy in US history. So if you had said to me, you had like a crystal ball, he said, all right, Anthony, you're going to start SkyBridge in '05. 20 years later, you're going to still be in business. Lehman will go out of business in '08. No way I would have believed that. So that's that, I got lucky in the sense that I sold it, but I would have very overconfidently held that in position and probably rode it into the ground.
So, I know you're pressed for time here a little bit, so I want to get into some other stuff. Currently, your role at SkyBridge is you're investment officer. You're picking the investments, or you sort of changed your role there a bit.
Yeah, no, we're doing so much better without me picking the investments, by the way. I mean, it's sort of that's another bad reflection. So I've been more on the marketing side, more on the podcasting side, more on the brand building. I've written a few books. I wrote the book about Bitcoin. I'm now writing a book about Solana, which will hopefully come out in
Sure.
December. Just talking about the technical properties associated with Solana. And my partner, who's been with me for almost 40 years, he was my law school classmate. Him and my other partner who's also a law school classmate. You know, there's three of us really that have known each other for 40 years. They more or less run the portfolio. I more or less take care of the marketing. I have a strong compliance team that we pulled out of Citibank 15 years ago. So it's a nice little business. We've got very long-term thinkers in the business, long-term orientation. About 5 years ago, to be precise, October of 2020, so 4.5 years ago, we pivoted into crypto. And I took a
Right.
big slug of the business and pushed it into things like Bitcoin and other assets. When Solana got up and running, I took a big position in Solana, and clients really didn't like it. You know, I'm from a traditional finance background. I have a lot of traditional finance
So everything's
clients.
crypto in the fund now?
No, but about 35%.
And are you still in Tether?
Well, I've owned Tether from time to time, but I don't have the private capital in Tether. I mean, I've owned the digital coin known as Tether in our international funds, but I don't have an equity position in Tether.
Let's since we're on to Bitcoin, I mean, we'll get back to Iran, Israel, Trump, and all that stuff. But
Mhm.
the book was inspiring for me, um, because it talks about innovation and technology, and it's not just
Mhm.
about Bitcoin. And you went from skeptic, like I was, to champion. What happened there? Like, how did you become a crypto champion or a Bitcoin champion after being so skeptical of it?
Yeah, Michael Saylor basically in 2013 said Bitcoin was a bunch of BS and it was gonna, it was expire like a dinosaur. He said it was like weird, bad online gambling sites, and he became the Bitcoin maven.
Yeah.
I actually met Hal Finney, as I reference in the book. I met Hal Finney in 2012. Hal, of course, was the first recipient of a Bitcoin from the Satoshi wallet. Many people think he was part of the program design of Bitcoin. He's now passed from us, but he gave an incredible rendition of what Bitcoin is, what it can be, and what it's frankly emerging to be way back in 2012. I didn't understand it, didn't care. I think you could probably find a tweet that I put out there that said something like, don't know what a Bitcoin is and don't care, caveat emptor. Okay, so
Right.
traditional finance people is a very hard thing to understand. It sounds like internet fake money. But if you actually step back and understand how human civilizations have designed money and what the technical properties are embedded in the money, and if you actually understand that money is actually a piece of technology, a book is a piece of technology, right? It's a tool that we're using to teach each other. Money's a tool that we're using to transfer value between each other. And I'll just submit this to you, Hirsch, because I brought some props with me. Okay, you see these? These are Italian singles. You see these here? Okay, see that? You like those? Like you grew up in Bergen County, so you know all the guineas, all the Italians had this in their pocket, right? I mean, I may get invited to Rayo's tonight. I got to show up, right? But let me just show you this right here. This is worthless. It's a piece of fabric. You can Google it. It's made out of 75% cotton, 25% linen. Look at me. It's got a counterfeit strip and a old man on a pig. Oh, it's worthless. You know it's worthless. I know it's worthless. However, if I give this to the maitre d because he trusts it, he takes it. He'll go buy himself a pizza. He'd be very happy.
And
I
you get
get,
a table right away.
yeah. If I give it to the valet, he's putting my car right in front of the restaurant. You see what's going on here?
Back in the old days, my father taught me that with a 20,
Right.
in the
Well, yeah,
70s.
exactly. Right. Well, it's 100 now. But if you're getting the point that I'm making, we trust this. So what the Nakamoto programming team did was they created a trustless, open, fully transparent, fully decentralized spreadsheet. And it's immutable. You can't make more of the tokens that are trafficking on the rail system of the spreadsheet known as the blockchain. And what he basically said is, if you understand what I'm saying, you should buy some of it. And then in the white paper, he literally says, look, this may catch on. You should buy some. And by the way, I don't have a lot of time to explain it to you. And it caught on.
What about security? There's a history of hacks and thefts over the recent years. The Bitcoin family they're offline and going analog. I've got one of my members who's lost some money there, and he's going into ETFs. I'm a fan of the ETFs. That's what I trade with crypto.
Hmm.
It would seem the safest place is ETFs. I mean, I know in the book you're a proponent of coin and holding it. What's going on with the security there? I mean, it seems to be a concern.
I mean, these are great questions. So I think I want to differentiate for people. The blockchain itself, the integrity of Bitcoin has never been hacked. What has been hacked is people have been able to go into people's wallets.
Yeah,
They've been able to figure out their pass keys and steal their Bitcoin. But the integrity of the blockchain and the transfer system known as Bitcoin, 15 years running, so almost 16 years running, hasn't been hacked. So I, like you, because I think we're both old school. Okay. What's weird, Hirsch, is that you and I were young. Okay. You were building Stock Trader Almanac with your dad. I was hustling at Goldman. When we were young. We took two blinks of an eye. Now we're the old timers, right?
that's right.
So in an old timer sense, you'll relate to this. I'm a conservative guy. I grew up with no money, so I'm a conservative guy. Bitcoin was a turnoff in the beginning. It looked overly speculative. Now that I understand it, it feels like a store of value to me. But the question is, how do I store the value safely? And I'm with you. I think the ETF is the best way to do it. It's a low cost storage system. It comes with a QSIP. You have SIPC protection because of the QSIP nature of it. You can put it in your brokerage account. So why not just do that? I write in the book that I'm a proponent of the coin because you should have some coin. Even though you have the ETF, you should have some very fungible, movable coin in a wallet because it's just a good idea, like anything else in life. I have a Saudi sheikh who's a client of mine. He said, Bitcoin, man, it's you talk to people, you tell me Bitcoin's like gold, it's digital gold. Anthony, it's more valuable than gold. I said, well, what do you mean, Sheikh? He said, well, let me tell you something. If I get in trouble in this country, I can't put $200 million of gold up my ass, but I can take the USB in my pocket and I can hide it somewhere and head across the Yemeni border. It's better than gold. You follow what I'm saying? And
Fair
so
enough. Yeah.
you either get it or you don't get it, but you're right about the storage component. But even notwithstanding that, a little bit of real coin in a wallet somewhere is not a bad thing.
So it's hard to tell what's going on with Iran, Israel right now. Kind of depends upon the level of retaliation, escalation. Um, April 24, S&P dropped about 5.5% when there was the initial confrontation. Not much of a decline when the October salvos happened, but today Iran seems to be, hitting back a little bit more effectively. It's hard to tell right now, but if you were advising President Trump right now, what would you tell him?
Well, I mean, first of all, let's just stipulate he doesn't listen to anybody. He only listens to himself. But I think what's clear here is for the interest of the world, you would want some level of de-escalation. I think if you have a nuclear threat, you have a nuclear Iran who has been a radical adjutant in the region against the Sunni Muslims in the Gulf and the state of Israel, you would want to subdue them. And unfortunately, we're in a very rough world, and that particular area of the world is a very rough neighborhood. So if I was Benjamin Netanyahu and I felt the existential threat, you've got Iranian presidents dating back to 1979 coming here to New York, standing in front of the General Assembly at UN, saying death to Israel. They'd like to take Israel off the map. And so if you're the prime minister of Israel, you have an obligation, you have a responsibility to protect your citizens, the sanctity of your territory, and the sanctity of your sovereignty. So you'll find a Zionist in me because I believe that the Jews are the progenitors of the Western liberalism. Most of the ideas come out of the Torah. You can trace everything back to the foundation stone. They moved through ancient Greece into Rome, out to the French Revolution, into the parliamentary system in the UK, out to the Republican representative democracy of America. And the canons and the foundation of this all come from the Torah. synthesized and summarized primarily in the Ten Commandments. So to me, I don't know what the hell is wrong with the world, but there's a lot of people in the world that are anti-Semitic, and I believe they're anti-Semitic because of the culture and because of the success of the Jewish people. There's 14, 15 million Jews on a population of 8 billion, and they've had an incredible contribution to the society. And that culture, which has outlasted the ancient Romans, outlasted the British Empire, will sure to outlast any other empire, and will be here long after you and I are gone, I think creates a lot of jealousy. I don't think it's about religion. It's about the jealousy of success. And so when you kill 6 million of them in concentration camps, uh, and you have people like Harry Truman and George Marshall. Marshall disagreed with Truman, by the way, but you create the state, you give them the opportunity to exist. They're going to want to sustain themselves, and they have that right. So all you have to do is dial down the hatred. We were about to see a normalization between the Saudis and the state of Israel. And the Iranians didn't want that. And they perpetrated, with the help of Hamas, an invasion that killed 1,200 people, massacred them, Jeff, massacred them.
Heinous. It was heinous.
And so, I took the IDF film, 43 minutes of it, showed it in Davos, showed it at the Core Club in the theater there to lots and lots of people so that they can be educated on what's going on. So to me, I support the state of Israel. I think the Israelis have to be careful. Again, I want to be open and as objective on this podcast as possible because you got to watch your brand. Your brand. One of my friends wrote a book called Startup Nation about Israel and the tech companies in Israel and the great venture capital stuff that's going on in Israel. And I'm just saying to you, you want that to be the brand. Israel makes more venture capital investments in the state of Israel, the size of New Jersey, than all of the EU. The 500.
Have you been?
I'm sorry?
Have you been to Israel?
Many times. Yeah, many times. Yeah. I mean, most recently, I haven't been in a while actually because it was pre-COVID. I think it was last time I was there was in 18.
Me too.
I was scheduled to go in 20, but we had a COVID situation, so I couldn't go, and now other things have happened. But I'm happy to go back to Israel, and I'm a friend of the Israeli government. And I would just say this, that they're hurting their brand to an extent in areas of Gaza. And they'll say that it's impossible, and they'll say that they're on a mission, and I understand that. But it's a different world today than World War II. The world.
Sounds like a line from Fiddler.
But it is. I don't want.
New world, Golda.
I don't want the Israelis to be tarred unfairly, and I don't want them to self-inflict wounds on themselves that they don't need to do. So they gotta really be measured, and they've done a good job in many ways. If you look at this strike, they're killing people in their bedrooms that are murderers and nuclear scientists, and the whole building and all the civilians are left standing. I applaud the Israelis for the humane way that they go about war. And I understand the need for the ruthlessness for them to survive.
But they do have a PR issue.
But they do have a PR issue. And I think that they got to start thinking about that because I want to, you want to protect them. You want capital to return to their country. You want venture capital, scientists, et cetera, steady flow into the state of Israel. So that's me on that topic. I think Trump is all over the place. He wants a nuclear deal with Iran, doesn't want a nuclear deal with Iran, rips up the deal that Obama put in place. Now he wants the same deal that Obama was doing anyway. I mean, he's all over the place. So he's not the right guy for that job. I said it, and he's back in it because he's back in it. The best thing Donald Trump has going for him, Jeff, is the Democrats. That's the best thing he has going for him because they blow themselves up every time he comes near them. He's laughing. He triggers them. Trust me, when they send AOC and Bernie Sanders into the hinterland to garner support, Trump's giggling. Okay.
What do you think? You think Carville was right
about what?
About backing off and letting Trump blow up on his own and just sort of.
I don't think that at all. No, I think you got to fight Trump. I think that somebody's finally bringing the fight to Trump, and that is Gavin. And, Gavin has his own issues because he overly supported Biden. He's got problems and hard left policies in California that he's going to have to answer for. But I think he's finally standing up to Trump, and I think he's got the messaging right. What these people represent and what ICE is representing is a cruelness that Americans don't typically associate with.
Would you support Newsom as a candidate in 2028?
Who's he running against?
Some Republican?
Well, if he's running against a MAGA Republican, yes, I would support Gavin Newsom. Remember, this is no longer the Republican Party I grew up in. This is the MAGA Party. This was a
Right.
hostile takeover of the Republican Party. They decapitated it. They installed MAGA, and this is not a conservative or even a Christian ideology. Ask the Pope. Pope's mad at J.D. Vance. It's not a Christian ideology. It's not a conservative ideology or Judeo-Christian ideology. This is the whims of one policymaker, Donald Trump. They're haphazard. Some of them are just mean-spirited. Some of them are populist based that don't make any economic sense. And some of them
how
are
did
just
you get in with them in the first place? Like, what was the attraction there?
traditional Republican, worked on the Bush team, was a fundraiser for Bush. Bush got knocked out of the race. Trump called me to recruit me. I made a succession of mistakes. Mistake number one, going to work for him in the campaign. Mistake number two, he won. He named me to the presidential transition team. I let my ego get the best of me. I took the job. And then he formed the administration. He got sworn in, went to work. 6 months later, he called me and offered me that job. And, my wife hates Trump like almost as much as Melania hates him, which is like way, way up here. And I was like, she told me not to do it, but I didn't listen to her because my ego was talking, Jeff. You write about in your almanac, you have all these beautiful phrases and quotes, and you remix them and add a few every year. But I'll give you one from me. Okay, don't let your ego and your pride get in the way of your decision making. Okay, that's in your personal life, that's in your business career, and that's certainly in your investing. And I let my pride and ego get the better of me, and I went to go work. I'm a blue collar kid from Long Island, went to Tufts, Harvard, Goldman, built 2 successful businesses, had an opportunity to work in the White House for the American president with an office in the White House down the hall from the Oval. And it was irresistible to me. And even though my wife said, it's going to end in tears for you because you and him are not going to see the world the same way, I took the job anyway. So I have to own that for the rest of my life. But you asked me the question, I'm going to answer it.
No, I appreciate that. So I remember when you got fired from Trump. I think you were doing the SALT conference in Vegas, and you were backstage there. I think you were getting your makeup done or whatever, and somebody was asking you, like, what would you tell President Trump right now? And you said, Mr. Trump's got a very short attention span, and you got to give it to him like a bumper sticker. Same policies, less crazy, I think was
That's what I said, like light beer.
Yeah.
Yeah, say good. Yeah, let's go with good policy, less crazy.
So
he had a lot of good policy. He had a lot of good ideas. The economy
does he still
did
have
well.
any good policies? Well, I mean, what would you tell him now?
Well, the problem now is he's on the grift right now. So the problem now, he's got one angel on his shoulder saying I could be a really good president, and he's got the devil on the other shoulder saying, let's try to make 20 billion. Let's take a $400 million plane from the Qataris. Let's try to make this. Let's try to do that. You see what I mean? Let's launch a meme coin 12 hours before the inauguration. Let's turn arms, twist arms, and get people to donate to me. Let's see how many people will put money in my meme coin so that they can come to my golf course and have dinner with me. See what I mean? And so, yes, I mean, that he's gone over the top with this stuff. The problem with Donald Trump is you're at a buffet table. I want to go to the buffet table. What's good about him? The Bitcoin regulation. So I want to take my tray and I want to take one ladle of Bitcoin regulation. I want to take one ladle of banking deregulation. I want to take one ladle of permanentizing the tax cuts. But you can't do that with Trump. You got to eat the entire goddamn buffet. You got to eat the meme coin. You got to eat the rhetoric about the 51st state being Canada, Governor Trudeau. You got to eat Greenland. You got to eat Panama. You got to eat the excoriation. You got to eat Trump coming down like the orange Moses from Mount Evil with the stupid fucking tablet with the numbers on the tablet. You don't even know what they are. And you're looking at them saying, okay, this doesn't make any sense. And the market's dropping 8, 9% because of it. This is not the way to run a country. If you want to run a reality show, sure, go and excoriate the president of South Africa, rip apart Volodymyr Zelensky, who's fighting for his life. But I don't think it's the right way to run a country. And and he's got the Oval Office decorated like Liberace. I mean, the guy's out of his mind. He's
What
president.
about this parade?
Well, he's President Liberace. Just remember I said that. He decorates like Liberace. So the parade is this self-glorification. It is completely nonsensical and against the democracy. I have in my pocket something I wanted to show you. Okay. Can I show it to you?
Please.
This was on the chair at West Point for all the cadets. Look at this. So for people listening, remember your oath to the Constitution. So when you sat down at the graduation, moms and dads, cadets, soon to be military officers, this was there. Okay, we're a system designed where every single one of us should be subordinate to this. Or said differently, Cicero once said, we are slaves to the law in order to be free. You can't put people above the law. You can't give one person too much power because we know that power will corrupt. And we know that power will fall into the hands of danger and it'll become cronyism, kleptocracy, etc. And that's happened all over the world.
Isn't time? Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, we've made our prosperity because of that system and that constitution.
Isn't his time a little bit, limited with the midterms coming up?
I think so. Yeah, I think that's very positive.
I mean, basically, he gets, through the fall and they start campaigning in January, if not sooner. And
it's decaying political asset. He is a decaying political asset. He'll be as close to being as irrelevant as you could imagine.
Why do you say that? What makes you think he's decaying as a political asset?
Because once he can't run for re-election. He even admitted that to Kirsten Walker at Meet the Press. He's Bannon saying he's going to run for re-election. He's not going to run for re-election.
So what about this tariff trade war situation? How do you think they're handling that? Do they have a plan or are they just winging it?
They have absolutely no plan. It's a mishmash of different things. They're trying to tell you the guy's playing 4D chess. He's in the corner eating the chess pieces. He's got Basent pulling out whatever hair he's got left on his chest. Okay. And it's been a nightmare for them. Lutnick, I don't understand, to be honest. I knew Howard a long time. I don't understand how he became this amazing sycophant. He knows these tariffs are ridiculous. He knows they're ridiculous.
Is he bucking for a job at the Fed?
I don't know what he's doing, but I think it's ridiculous.
So there was a little news out this week from the World Bank where they agreed with Trump on the trade barriers and the need for other countries to lower tariffs. I had sent out, there was a news story first I saw in the Post. I sent it out to some of my more liberal friends and they were, oh, that's right-leaning this. And then the Washington Post comes out with the same story. So, I mean, there's something there. It's kind of weird that left and right are agreeing on that, but
agreeing on what? The tariffs?
There's global trade barriers to the U.S., that there's unfair tariffs against the U.S., but I mean, is there a better way to go about this than what they're doing? Is there a way to go about this?
I mean, see, what I love about our society now, we don't remember any of our history. So if you read No Trade is Free by Robert Lighthizer, he'll explain how the trading system got set up. We made the system uneven. We started the system at the end of the Second World War in an uneven position. We were 3% of the world's population, 50% of the world's GDP. And so the leaders of our country, mostly neo-Victorians, mostly ex-military veterans, they recognized that they had to make an uneven system. So countries could have goods flow into the United States, the most powerful nation in the world, the most powerful capitalist economy, and we would accept barriers and some levels of protectionism so that they could protect their labor markets and they could grow a middle class. We were trying to create rising living standards to combat Joseph Stalin and Chairman Mao and we were trying to protect Western Europe, where there was no industrial production left in Western Europe. It was basically decimated during the war. So when the World Bank is writing this, they're correct, okay, and they have to be equalized, but you have to do it surgically. I would not recommend a blunt instrument in doing that because it will overly upset the coordination of the supply chains. And by the way, the United States is still 26% of the world's GDP, 3.5% of the world's population. That's the same number. Go look through your stock trading almanac. That's the same number as it was 30 years ago. So it implies that we're doing something right with the policy. And one of the big policy pieces that we have is dollar supremacy and the US dollar being the reserve currency. We get that for a number of reasons. We get that because of the size and scale of our military, the
The
fact
rule
that
of law.
the rule of law and the denomination of the most important commodities like oil are in US dollar. And if you look at Basel 1 and 2, the banks have to accept the US dollar on deposit as a form of their risk mitigation in a fractional banking system. So why screw that up? You're right, and the World Bank is right. There is some unevenness to the trade. So he could have gone to our European partners and said, listen, we're going to create a North American free trading alliance, and we're going to have more free trade among all of us. We've been friends now for hundreds of years. And there's 500 million of you, and on this continent, there's counting the Mexicans and the Canadians, there's almost 500 million of us, and that's a billion people. And then we're going to turn our focus to the Chinese, who have sometimes have executed trade truancy. They haven't abided by our trade agreements, and they've done things that were not necessarily the right things to do. And we're going to go to them as a billion people strong, and we're going to negotiate a tough but fair deal with them. But he didn't do that.
You didn't have the patience for it.
Yeah, he's Admiral Yamamoto. You remember Admiral Yamamoto? He wanted to declare war. The emperor said, go easy on the United States, too powerful of a country, still emerging, but the richest country. Yamamoto said no. He hit Pearl Harbor on the 7th of December, and that was it. The United States responded. So this guy's shooting off a trade war at a 360-degree angle. He could have aligned with the Europeans to protect the country and to protect those markets. So, but he's a know-it-all. He told Mike Bloomberg once that Mike said, hey, you got to hire smart people smarter than you. Trump said, no, I'm the smartest person I know.
Yeah, that's the best advice. You got to hire people smarter than you.
But, he said today to the reporter, I know everything. I know everything. He knows everything.
Do you think what's going on in Russia, Ukraine, there's any hope there? And was
No, there's a hold on Trump. There's a hold on Trump. If there wasn't a hold on Trump, the war would be over. There's a hold on Trump. If someone like you were running a country, the war would be over because you would call Putin and you'd say, okay, listen, you give me a hard time. I told you to knock it off. You're not going to knock it off. Zelensky's decimated you. He's taken out most of your fleet. I want to protect your quasi superpower status, even though you're a regional power now. Stop embarrassing yourself. Withdraw from the Ukraine so I can get your economy back up and running. And by the way, very easy to push pressure on him if we were aligned. Trump could do that, but there's compromise, there's money that is exchanged, something's going on. I don't know what it is. None of us could figure it out, but there's something there. You don't act like that. He's a rich guy running the most powerful country in the world. He's kissing Putin's ass, who's got the GDP of Italy, and his army has been decimated, and he's using 1980 tank equipment in the Ukraine. I mean, come on, guys. Come on. It's embarrassing. It's embarrassing for him. It's embarrassing for the Republicans that are supporting him. But there's a reason why there's a Fox News analyst, weekend host running the Secretary of Defense, because other guys wouldn't put up with that. They'd look at him and say, what are you, crazy? You can't act like this.
So you got to take off. I want to just get a quick rundown from you on your outlook on the markets, the economy, and the Fed. Where are we going here? I mean, we're in a weak seasonal period here, but we're in a post-election year. There's some pressures here. We're sort of having an old school Republican, post-election year where there's a lot of stuff happening quickly and the markets reacted to it especially what's going on now in the Middle East. So what's your outlook? Where do you think the markets are going for the rest of the year?
So I'm bullish, despite what's going on in the trade war, despite all the uncertainty that Trump is creating through the dramatics of running a reality television show in the Oval Office. I'm bullish because, as you know from your almanac, the first year in a new administration is generally a good one. And I'm bullish because there's a tremendous amount of productivity taking place in the economy, lots of automation, lots of robotics, lots of AI, lots of biotech, all of which is going to dramatically improve our per capita productivity. And we're going to take another S curve leap up in terms of economic growth, which is going to be good for helping us solve the deficit, good for bringing down healthcare costs relative to GDP. And I think we're going to surprise people with how well we do. Remember, 12 and a half years ago, we were the same size, same GDP as the EU. Today, we're double the size of the EU. So we are doing a lot of things right in the country. We got to spend a little less money, or we got to slow down the growth of that spending to make sure our economy is growing faster than it, so that we can shrink our percentage of debt to GDP. But generally, I'm pretty bullish. The good news is the system is so strong. Let me go back to my prop. The system is so strong that these idiots really can't break the system. So the system will hold. The courts will beat back Trump on the National Guard. They'll beat back Trump on some of the worst impulses of the Project 2025 people. Jerome Powell doesn't give a shit. He knows he's not going to be renewed as the Fed chair, and he's gonna do the right thing for the country.
Well, listen, man, Tony, I really appreciate you taking the time out. Good luck at Tribeca. I know your son's got a film there.
And my son's got a film called Money Talks. His stage name is Tony Mucci, Jeff. Tony Mucci. Could have been Tony Bernstein, okay? Because he's been to a lot of bar mitzvahs, but he went with Tony Mucci.
Well, listen, thanks for joining me. Happy Father's Day. And again, Jeff Hirsch for WealthWise on Biz Talk Today TV, available wherever you stream your podcast. For more info on the Almanac, go to stocktradersalmanac.com. Check me out on social at Almanac Trader, or just Google me or the Almanac. And again, Tony.
Now look, I'm a 32 year, that's my Bible for 32 years. Congratulations to you and your family on it.
Appreciate you, man. Thank you.